We're going to take a quick bottom of the hour break and come back with a couple of Polk County individuals, and we're going to hear what it's going to take to keep the citizens safe in West Salem, Independence, Monmouth, Dallas, and beyond. Stick with us. We'll be right back. This is 1430 KYKN. Salem is listening. Welcome back, folks. This is Brent DeHart with Dave Bourne and Newsmakers. And in our studio, we got two new guests. Got a couple of guests, so you don't have to listen to us talk anymore. Craig Pope, Commissioner of Polk County, who has been our guest on Newsmakers. We got a petition. They said they didn't want you back, but we invited you anyway.
Did you sign it?
Yeah. No, I did not. Also sitting with us is Sheriff Mark Garton. I pronounced that correctly. He's been sheriff since 2015, right? Yep. And you made it this far.
So far.
Yeah. Okay, and they are both going to talk about the public safety levy coming up. And we mentioned on Newsmakers briefly before. We'll get a little bit more information about what it means, why it's necessary, how this come to pass. Make sure you all understand. Hey, folks, and we should all understand that close to 40,000 people, growing on 40,000 people in the Salem city limits live in Polk County. And, of course, Polk County expands to a lot of rural territory, including Dallas, Independence, Monmouth, and some of the smaller communities. Right, Sheriff?
Yep.
And you have to get to patrol them all now.
740 square miles.
All right. So this is a vote coming up in May.
On May 21st.
Okay, I want to clarify something because for those people who are paying attention, if you work for the county or if you work for a taxing jurisdiction, you are not allowed to stump. You're not allowed to advocate on behalf of like a bond measure or a levy. But both of you gentlemen are elected.
Correct.
So you get to be cheerleaders.
Absolutely.
You have to come out here and say, hey, why don't you support us? Right? All right. So this is a levy to basically keep in place some funding that's funding not just your department, but district attorney and the jail and so forth, right?
Correct. Yeah. 2015 is when the levy first passed. And prior to that, we were only working 10 hours a day on patrol. We only had a few prosecutors, I think 3 prosecutors.
So by only working 10 hours, folks, he means there was only a sheriff out on patrol from noon to 10.
Correct.
Not that there was a bunch of them working 10-hour shifts, noon to 10, and otherwise you're going to have to take matters in your own hands or wait.
Pretty much.
Okay, go on. Sorry.
So,
That's crazy.
Yeah, so the levy passed, and it allows for us to hire 12 patrol deputies, so it gets us back to 24/7, which we are. It also allowed to hire 5 in our jail, so that I run as well. So we were able to maintain and basically have more inmate population, which we do. And then we're just more efficient, more safe for everybody. And then our district attorney also got 3 prosecutors out of this levy and 2 legal support staff. So it is a system that we have in Polk County. It's not just one thing or a police department. We all have to work together. The district attorney prosecutes crimes for all the cities. The inmates that the cities arrest come to the Polk County Jail, and then we take care of them until they get to court.
Okay, so the jail, what's its capacity?
195 beds.
And with the current staffing, could you have 190 people in there? Or does that require even additional staffing?
No, in theory, we can do any number of inmates with the same number of staff. But, we're on average right now, we're about 155 people a day. So that's up considerably from the previous years. So.
That's because you keep arresting people.
There's just more folks out on the road doing, intercepting crime. So,
yes, that's true. More people out on the road intercepting crime. Well said. So the levy, it's a 5-year levy, the original levy from 2015, and you're going in a year early.
Yes.
Right? So explain how that works and why.
So, yeah, we wanted to go out 1 year early, and the main reason is because it costs about $150,000 to train a deputy. So we've hired 12 on patrol. And we don't really want to wait till the very last minute because I don't want any of the staff that we've trained and invested time and taxpayer money, all of our money into, and have them leave and go to another agency and then us have to start over and do the training. And
because they might be worried about instability of funding.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people, if you have not owned a business, a lot of people who do own a business, it's a hard lesson, but the most expensive thing in business is turnover.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Unless you're turning over inventory, that's a good thing. But employee turnover is an exceedingly expensive thing
Yeah.
because it's hit and miss whether or not you get the right fit, plus all of the training costs and so on and so forth. You get all this investment in them, and if you really don't get it back unless there's some longevity, right?
Very, very true. And so, yeah, it's important to keep them, and that way at least they know they're good for another 5 years if this levy passes. So.
All right, so let me ask. We're talking to Sheriff Mark Garton of Polk County. Is there a demand for your deputies, all your patrol, like in the counties in general throughout Oregon or Washington? Would it be easy to find another position?
No, it's hard. We just had a process. We had about 40 people apply. 20 people showed up to take the test. We ended up with 2 potential candidates, and then so out of 40.
Wow.
So it just that's a good example of how hard it is to find a good person.
Wow. Yeah. And if they are a good person and now they've got 3 years under their belt, the question is, can they be poached? I mean, are they
easy?
Yeah, easily poached because they're already trained up, and Polk County bared the cost.
Correct.
For the cost.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So you're going early, and plus, if the voters don't support it this time for whatever reason, then you have another shot at it, right?
That's correct.
And you could still go out for another education and cheerleading tour and try to convince people that it's in their best interests, right?
Yes.
So, Commissioner Pope, obviously you're supportive of this.
Absolutely.
The commission and three commissioners that you voted to, and you're supportive of what they're doing.
Yes.
I actually attended one of your Polk County Commission meetings, and it was being presented at the time, and you guys were very favorable in terms of we like what we've been seeing since 2015. Is that fair to say?
Yep. Yes, it is.
So what's been your experience in terms of what's changed from 2015 in public safety?
Well, I would even go back a little bit farther and just help the listeners understand. We actually started this conversation about a safety levy in 2013, and that was the first time in front of the voters with a levy concept. And it's happened because of our inability to raise any other revenues to maintain a public safety system. And so, as I've expressed to you all before, that remember we used to have timber taxes in our county, which is more than 50% covered with trees. We don't get that benefit now that we used to get. So it essentially affects about $2.5 million worth of revenue that we once had at the turn of the century. And we don't have that today. So this, sadly, has become the new normal, I'm afraid. And, I continue to fight for those tax dollars that we're entitled to. But in the meantime, we're a growing county with a lot of concerns like any other county, and we need to make sure that we maintain our public safety system.
So some of those timber dollars that dried up because of the lack of forestry. And then there were federal dollars, of course.
Correct.
Right? Were the CNOs, what do they call those?
O&C counties.
O&C. I had it backwards, yeah. O&C. And then those dried up, and Polk County was using those for public safety.
Yes.
Right? So it was interesting because Marion County, they were not using the funds for public safety. They were using it for roads, right? So different counties are, it's kind of like squishing a balloon, honestly, when it comes to that's always a good visual. When you're talking about the budget, and it's like you can squeeze it here, but it's going to balloon out somewhere else.
Correct.
So you can say, well, if we can take it from here, but then the balloon's going to be flat over there, kind of thing. And so it's all kind of squished around. But it's important for people to realize that those O&C funds were going to public safety, and then they went to nothing. And how do you fund them?
Correct.
Right.
Well, and the result by 2013 was we had grown to a place where our patrol volume had dropped considerably. Our staffing in the DA's office and the jail had dropped considerably. Unfortunately, in 2013, our story wasn't as robust as it had finally become by 2015. But by 2015, as the sheriff said, we were down to 10 hours a day of patrol. We had citizens essentially giving up on making calls to dispatch because they didn't believe anybody was ever going to show up. And so the crime was increasing, but we just weren't able to respond to it, and citizens were giving up on even trying to call.
Very, very reactive, not proactive policing. So.
Wow. And what was the condition at the district attorney's office? What would be like? I'm asking Commissioner Pope here because, ultimately they all work for you, and you work for the people.
Correct.
So at the district attorney's office, and recruiting people, keeping good people, and again with the uncertainty of is my job even going to be here?
Same issue. Again, trying to hire professionals to come in and do the work, hit the ground running is much more difficult when you have uncertainty in your revenues. And so you become a training ground. And in fact, the sheriff's office had the same kind of challenges. Folks would, if they could get in, they would get started. But as soon as they saw some challenges with revenues or their future, they take on other offers.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what the levy would pay for. We get some nuts and bolts. So it's all the people, obviously, from 2015.
Yep.
So the money is going directly to hiring individuals that are going to work for the public and in public safety, in the district attorney's office, in the jail, and in your department.
A total of 23 for this new levy. 23 people.
23 people.
Yeah.
That's substantial.
Yeah.
All right. So,
But that's only up 2 people.
Just one.
One person.
Currently,
From
it funds 22.
Okay.
The current levy.
So the authorization, trying not to get too deep in the woods, but the authorization was 45 cents per thousand of assessed value, right? Yep. 45 cents is was the multiplier. You guys have actually only been collecting 33 cents. Is that right?
That is correct. But there's a caveat to that. And of course, to make certain that we put a period on the cap in this current proposal, it's at 42.5 cents cap. But the caveat to this is that we have been able to use, and we were committed to using federal timber dollars as they would come trickling in, if they came trickling in. The challenge we have today is that we're not making that commitment or promise because we don't know. The Secure Rural Schools funding program has now expired. That is no longer anything we can count on. Our timber cut taxes are not something we can count on. We cannot forecast that. So we are at a place right now where we believe that we just need to say, okay, this is what it's going to take for property taxes to cover this amount.
So, Commissioner Pope, is the intent to actually levy the 42.5 and collect that for public safety, or is it a wait and see?
No, we'll levy what's required. So I expect that our first year we're probably going to be at around 36. I think that's kind of our prediction. Yeah. So it will go up some from the 33 that we're currently at because we won't have any guaranteed dollars from anywhere else to supplant that.
Okay, no guaranteed dollars, and you're adding at least one position.
Correct.
And there's, of course, these little things like inflation.
Yeah.
And
PERS.
It's funny, we're talking about timber, we talk about PERS. It seems to cycle around a lot of things that Newsmakers talks about. All right, I want to talk to the sheriff a little bit more. We're going to take a quick break, learn what's going on in Polk County crime. Ups, downs, struggles that they're facing, and hopefully answer all the questions you have about the public safety levy vote coming up in May. You're listening to Newsmakers with Brent DeHart and Dave Bourne on 1430 KYKN. Salem is listening.